Now we're going to find the trig value of special angles. These are all angles that are multiples of 30, 45, or 60. We're going to put together everything you've learned about SOHCAHTOA, special triangles, and reference angles, and you'll be able to figure these out without your calculator. So step 1 is to draw the angle, and step 2 then is to draw a reference triangle and label it for each one. So let's just start with number 1, 210. So let's start with 0, 180, sorry, 0, you're all going, half point, that's wrong. 190, 180, 270. So we start out with one side of the angle is at 0, the other side is 30 degrees more than 180, so about right here. So this is 210 degrees to go all the way around. I can't draw a triangle for 210, so I have to find the reference angle. The reference angle always, makes a little triangle, and that triangle always has its adjacent side on the x-axis right here. So this is a 30 degree, this is 60. Here's my right angle. Now I need to know sine of 210. So I need to label the sides of that and then find opposite over hypotenuse, because sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So I'm going to label the sides. This would be the smallest side is opposite 30, so that would be 1, but it's -1 because I'm in quadrant 3. So quadrant 3, both x and y are negative. The hypotenuse is twice as big, it's 2. Remember, the hypotenuse is always positive. The adjacent side is also in the negative direction for x, so this is negative square root of 3. I'm looking at the reference angle is always has its vertex on the origin, so I'm looking at the angle at the opposite and adjacent sides in reference to the origin. So the vertical side is always the opposite side, the adjacent side is always the horizontal side. So opposite, -1 over 2. So the correct answer to this is -1/2. You can double check on your calculator, although you won't be able to do that on a test, but you'll be able to double check to see that that is correct. Okay, let's look at cosine of 300, going through the same steps. Now, you might want to test yourself and see if you can do this without watching the video, and then pause it and come back and see if you're correct. Starting at 0 and going all the way around to 300. So this is 90, 180, 270. So I'm going to go about 30 degrees past 270, so 300 would end up being about right here, 300. So all the way around here is 300. I can't find cosine of 300 directly by drawing a triangle because 300 doesn't fit in a triangle. So I have to use the reference angle and draw my triangle from the reference angle. The reference angle is always between the x-axis and the terminal side of the angle. So I'm going to be drawing my triangle to the x-axis like this. So the adjacent side is on the x-axis. Now, if this is 300 and this is 360 here, because all the way around is 360, then this is a 60-degree angle. This is a 30-degree angle. So when I label my 30, 60, 90 triangle, opposite 30 is 1. It's a positive 1 because I'm in the positive x direction. Opposite 60 is square root of 3, but it's negative because I'm in the negative y direction. And the hypotenuse is twice as big as the shortest side, so it's 2, and it's always positive. So cosine of 300 is adjacent over hypotenuse. So the side adjacent to my reference angle 60 is 1. The hypotenuse is 2. So it is positive 1/2. Now tangent of 315. 315 is also in quadrant 4. 0, 90, 180, 270. 315 is 270 plus 45. It's right halfway there. So here all the way around is 315 degrees. Just a tip, if I ask you to find something without a calculator and it ends in a 5, it's got to be a 45-degree special triangle because they're the only ones that end in a 5. So this is 45 degrees. To get from 315 to 360 would be going another 45. So this is a 45, 45, 90 triangle, which means its sides are 1, 1 in the square root of 2, positive 1 in the x direction, but negative 1 in the y direction. Positive square root of 2 because the hypotenuse is always positive. For tangent, I'm looking at opposite over adjacent. So negative 1 over 1 or negative 1 is the answer. Now let's look at a couple of questions that might make you think a little bit. What other angle between 0 and 360 degrees has the same sine value as sine of 210? Draw the angle below and show why. Well, let's think about it. When I say same sine value, in other words, it has a sine value of negative 1/2. Its opposite side over hypotenuse is negative 1/2. So I have to think, where else is the opposite side negative besides in quadrant 3? Well, since the opposite side is going in the y direction, I have to look at the other quadrant where y is negative, and that would be quadrant 4. Since it's negative 1/2, it has to have the same reference angle as the angle here, as angle 210. So it has to have a 30-degree reference angle, but it has to be in quadrant 4. So this is 30, 60, this would be negative 1, positive square root of 3, and 2. So it's still going to have a sine value of negative 1/2. So what angle is that? That is the question. So here's the angle I'm looking for, question mark. Well, if this is 30 and all the way around is 360, then this angle has to be 330. So that is the correct answer. That is a 330-degree angle. Now, see if you can try number 2 and number 3 on your own. Pause the video and then check back with me to see if you're correct. Okay, if you're checking back, cosine of 300, positive 1/2. So where else is cosine positive? Since it's adjacent over hypotenuse and hypotenuse is always positive, I have to look for the other quadrant where the adjacent side is positive. Well, the adjacent side is the x direction. So where else is x positive? Well, that would be quadrant 4. So I have to find something with the same reference angle that is in quadrant 4. So I draw a 60-degree reference angle, drop the perpendicular line down here. Wait a second, that 300, that's the one I already have. Oh, stupid me. Where else is cosine positive besides quadrant 4? I already have the quadrant 4 one. It would be quadrant 1, because that's the other place where cosine has a positive adjacent side. So draw the same reference angle in quadrant 1, and in quadrant 1 the reference angle is just the same as the angle, so it's a 60-degree angle. So positive 1, positive square root of 3, 2. 60-degree. So some of you are going, wait a minute, Mrs. Taylor, we just did quadrant 4, so sorry about that. Okay, 315, where else is tangent equal to negative 1? So I have to think of a place where opposite over adjacent is going to be a negative number. So in quadrant 1, opposite and adjacent are both positive. In quadrant 2, adjacent is negative and opposite is positive. So quadrant 2 would be the place, because opposite over adjacent would be positive over negative, which is still negative. In quadrant 3, opposite and adjacent are both negative numbers, so we end up with a positive tangent value. So I need to draw a 45-degree reference angle in quadrant 2, because this is a negative 1 and a positive 1. There's my 45-degree reference angle, and I know this is the square root of 2. This would be the angle I'm looking for. So what angle is it? Well, if I go from 0 to here, this is 180, this is 90. So what is 45 degrees more than 90? 45 degrees less than 180 is 135. So 135 would be the other angle between 0 and 60 that has the same tangent value as 315.